Alright, this stuff is getting pretty crazy, man. So I guess the background would be, you could imagine the hedgies with their teams of analysts getting paid a lot to simplify things, give it to you in a nice, concise manner. And crypto, I don't think we're going to get that. Well, you and I are probably not going to get it. So I'm going to try and help where I can. It's going to be a big journey, people. All right. What we have is here in Australia, we have the token mapping exercise. Now, interested parties are invited to comment on this consultation. Now, you have basically 1 month to reply to something that has been in the works for who knows how long, because this document is pretty serious, the way it looks. Now, what I mean by that, so we have the paper here. Now, this is basically the token mapping consultation paper. We have, here in Australia, we have 1 month to reply, if you want to reply, that is. Going through, I had a brief skim over it, and the more you look, the deeper it gets, because they're using reference points from a lot of other relevant sources, like the Bank of International Settlements. Basically, we did hear Munger come out very recently saying they should ban, all cryptocurrency and take the Communist Chinese Party route. Not sure if his analysts were signaling to him that that is the correct path to go down. I disagree, but based on this report, what you can see is Bank of Institute Bulletin number 66, addressing the risk in crypto, laying out the options. Now, it basically goes on to say key takeaways. 3, I guess 4. The fourth being develop a building infrastructure to allow for sound innovation, which includes a central bank digital currency. Now, this ban, this contain, and this regulate 3 different options. It's pretty interesting to read. Now, I'm hoping someone does watch this on the replay, but this is going to be a long one. I'm doing this for myself to show live on stream basically the research that I'm doing. Now, we'll have a look here. I'll tweet this one out. You see live. Now, I'm not sure if anyone else is currently streaming. Apologies if you are, but this might have been something I've stumbled upon. Not sure for what reason yet. Now, we do see hex pumping, which is good. Let's have a look. Basically going through this here, token mapping consultation paper. Like I said, a lot of work has gone into this. It is an interesting read so far. I decided to try and read this before I actually make a response. You can jump straight to the end, and basically it spells out, from my understanding so far, it spells out the questions that they're looking to have answered. Now, they want about 4 pages. So far I've come up with about probably 2 to 3 pages, context, the background of my understanding of crypto. Some points I want to point out, they may deem that not relevant. However, I still will include that, which means I only have about maybe a page or two to answer these questions. Now, there's a few questions here. Now, what they have mainly are list of consultation questions. You can see them here. I'll put links in your own time. You can go over it. Basically, it starts off with the easier questions, I believe. Starts off here. What do you think the role of government should be in the regulation of the crypto ecosystem? What are your views on potential safeguards for consumers and investors? Scams can be, going through. Now, it ends questions I think are a little bit harder. I think they themselves are having difficulties in understanding, because it says here, some smart contracts applications assist users to connect to an automated market maker. What are the key differences in risk between using an AMM and the services of a crypto exchange, asset exchange? It also has here, funnily enough, this is what I found to be somewhat amusing. Now, if I can pull up. Now, I am being a bit lazy and I'm using some ChatGPT to try and understand some questions here. Because the one that I found funny was this one. I think it was here. Basically said, this paper sets, but I'm not sure if this is a good or bad thing, because falling back on the Bank of International Settlements and their take on it, when they present the ban, contain, or regulate, or develop an alternative. Is this a push to say, token mapping is required for the regulation part? Now, what if token mapping is too hard, we have to contain it? Or what if that's too hard, we just have to ban it? That's what I worry, that people might be too lazy to try and figure all this out. So I'm hoping I can assist and try and make the crypto space free and open for all. Now, back to the paper. It says here, and the reason I said that was because this part section here says, this paper sets out some reasons for why a bespoke crypto asset taxonomy may have minimal regulatory value. What are the additional supporting reasons or alternative views on the value of a bespoke taxonomy? What are your views on the creation of a standalone regulation framework that relies on a bespoke taxonomy? In the absence of a bespoke taxonomy, what are your views on how to provide regulatory certainty to individuals and businesses using crypto networks and crypto assets in a non-financial manner? So it does touch on the non-financial manner, which is more, if you're issuing tickets, basically. But it does have here, it has, if I can find it, my ChatGPT. I actually had to look up what is an automated market maker. Things like, what is a conventional pawnbroker, lending. I'll cover them later. Basically, the paper argues that creating a special category or classifying for crypto assets in the tax system may not be very helpful in terms of regulation. I don't disagree with that, which I found quite funny. But when you see the alternatives to a regulated economy, I'm not sure if it is a good thing, because what if they go, oh, it's too hard to regulate, we'll go to containment model. That is one, I guess, move on the chessboard that I can see. Now, it says here, paper argues that creating a special category or classification for crypto assets in the tax system may not be very helpful in terms of regulation. It also, what are the supporting reasons for alternative views on the value of a bespoke taxonomy? What does this mean? I asked ChatGPT. In simple terms, this question is asking for reasons or viewpoints that support or challenge the idea that a specific taxonomy classification system for crypto assets would have a limited value for regulation. It's asking for an alternative perspective on the matter. Okay, so maybe ChatGPT can't help out with this one. It says also, what are your views on the creation of a standalone regulatory framework that relies on a bespoke taxonomy? What does this mean in simple terms? It said it can't provide personal views, opinions, or belief in simple terms, though. The creation of a standalone regulatory framework that relies on a bespoke taxonomy refers to the development of a unique system of classification specifically designed for the way for the regulation of crypto assets. This system aims to provide a clear and organized way of categorizing and regulating these assets, which can help in making rules and enforcing them effectively. Now, yeah. So, again, this is not going to be as easy as I thought it might have been, because I have to go through and understand what it is that they're asking. We also have questions like, it can be difficult to identify the arrangements that constitute an intermediate token system. Should crypto asset service providers be required to ensure that it goes on and on and on. And it's not just these questions that we're answering. It is actually, when we see it, a pretty good source of information, because some of the research has been done for you, because you see here they provide citations. See chart 1, finally they use CoinGecko as well. They cover the crypto system. They basically lay out their understanding the best they could in a way to try and then ask questions about a relevant section that they're trying to have answered. Now, see, it goes on here. I know the crypto ecosphere risks, consumer harm. It then has little examples within it, but I didn't know this at first. See the reference citations. Where is it? 9. Go 9. See asset crypto scams. Where's 5? Here we go. Research. Here we go. And they, it's like a proper report. This is the argument that they used when making this. And they use the Financial Conduct Authority, basically summary, overview of key findings, etc., etc. So they have put quite a fair bit of work into something where you or I have exactly 1 month to reply. In a way, with a limitation of about 4 to 5 pages, I believe was the requirement. Go submission guidelines. So this is going to be the beginning of a series with me basically going through some of this. So I don't think I'm wasting my time doing this, but it's just trying to get the creative juices flowing to try and read, and do more reading. What happens to my submission? Read. So you might do all this work and then may not choose to submit or even publish it. You can keep it confidential. It says no set format. Do not need to be formed documents. Let's have a look. Concise, generally, no longer than 4 to 5 pages. Short introduction about yourself and the organization you represent. So I think I've got that covered, but it's probably not as short. Emphasize the key points so they're clear. Outline what issues are. Not only what the issues are about, problems can be addressed as the Treasury looks into submission of ideas to make recommendations. So hopefully we can assist, or I can assist. Back to this now. Skimming through, again, it's got chain analysis, opportunities, international approaches to the ecosystem regulation. Now, this is a pretty good read. Again, it refers to Reserve Bank, it refers to FSB, Financial Stability Board, IMF, International Monetary Fund, and you can see it has a lot of information, like a lot. Pretty relevant, pretty new. October, oversight of crypto asset activities and markets, consultative report. We have International Monetary Fund. There's a lot. And we're supposed to go through all this in a month. Okay, that's why I'm starting to panic just a little bit, try and get this done. Now, I'm like that though. Now here we go, purpose of token mapping. Sorry, brain's jumping around a bit, but a background introduction. Basically, the paper is structured as below. Part A sets out background information about token mapping, including describing the purpose of token mapping and the existing regulatory context, and next steps. And next steps, so what's coming next. You can go through all these articles I posted in the previous video. I'll basically use that for my own information to go back through, go over, see what they're talking about, see what I can extrapolate from that. Maybe use it in my submission. Describe how the existing financial services framework applies to a large part of the crypto ecosphere. Describe how elements of the crypto ecosystem challenge the assumptions of underlying existing regulatory frameworks. Summarize the conclusions made in this paper and outline next steps. And then the next part here is purpose of token mapping. Now, purpose of token mapping, the process. So this is what these whole things they're looking at doing. Token mapping is the process of identifying the key activities and functions of products in the crypto ecosphere and mapping them against existing regulatory frameworks. In a recent paper on options for addressing the risks in the crypto ecosphere, the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, described how regulating the crypto ecosphere would require this kind of token mapping process as a foundational step. So it's a foundational step to what is coming, which I'm not sure. It says here why token mapping makes sense for Australia. The approach described in the paper is attractive in the Australian regulatory context because it adopts core principles built into the existing financial services regulatory framework, especially technology, net neutrality, and the functional approach to regulation. Again, go through this. I'm going to go through, reread, break down each section and see if I'm going to be addressing every single question that is come to and put forward in this particular what do you call it, submission, I guess. Now, my ramblings, I was trying to stop. Here's the key takeaways. Recent high-profile failures of FTX and other crypto firms have reignited the debate on an appropriate policy response to address the risk in crypto, including through regulation. The shadow financial functions enabled by crypto markets share many of the vulnerabilities of traditional finance. These risks are exacerbated by specific features of crypto. Authorities may consider different, not mutually exclusive lines of action to tackle the risks in crypto. These include containment, regulation of the crypto sector, or an outright ban. That's concerning. Central banks and especially when you have Munger saying outright ban. Central banks and public authorities could also work to make trade far more attractive. A key option is to encourage sound innovation with central bank digital currencies. Now, again, I'm hoping I'm not the only one noticing this. I don't think I am, but here we go. I'll probably leave it at this one here. I'll go over the next section a bit later. Now, addressing the risk in crypto, laying out the options. This was 12th January 2023. We have key takeaways. Again, this is what our report has been put together by who knows who, how many people, and who's read this and who's taking this advice. Apparently, the Australian government is taking this advice. Now, key takeaways. The recent high-profile failures of FTX and other crypto firms have reignited the debate on appropriate policy response and address to risk in crypto, including through regulation. The shadow financial functions enabled by crypto markets share many of the vulnerabilities of traditional finance. These risks are exacerbated by features of crypto. Authorities may consider different, not mutually exclusive lines of action to tackle the risk in crypto. These include containment or regulation of the crypto sector or an outright ban. Central banks and public authorities would also work to make trade far more attractive. A key option is to encourage sound innovation with central bank digital currencies. That is outright scary. We have, goes on to explain, worth a read. Here we go. Ban specific crypto activities. Isolate from TradeFi and the real economy. Contain. Regulate the sector in a manner akin to TradeFi. Regulate. So how are they going to regulate? This is going to be interesting because the argument within these parameters is to grow the cryptocurrency space, one, it needs regulation of some form that is similar to TradeFi. Now, the pros for this approach is ensuring consistency in regulation of financial activities, allowing for reasonable, responsible players to innovate in a regulated space. Now, I can't help but think it's kind of like this at the moment, but I guess they are worried about a lot of scams in the space also. Now, I'm not personally seeing any of these scams because I'm not looking, but if you're searching through the Wild Wild West, you might come across some scams. It's an unfortunate occurrence within this space. Now, I've learned from previous experience, people new to this space, probably you don't really want them to have to learn because, they have to make the mistake to learn. Anyway, challenge made to map crypto and TradeFi activities and entities. Challenges for enforcement given lack of clear reference points, in some cases DeFi. Now, it does go on to explain again. They also have references, like a lot of references. Do I want to read this out? I'll just skim over it. Let's have a look. So the extreme option is banning crypto activities in either their entirely or in a targeted manner. The pros and cons of banning are easy to assess. The cons of the banning option are easy to assess at an abstract level in terms of pros, and assuming that the ban is effective, any potential harm to the financial system would be eliminated and investors would not incur any losses due to misconduct on the part of crypto service providers. The main downside is that any useful innovation from crypto would be lost or delayed. Implementing this option would face challenge of enforcement for decentralized crypto activities. Their borderless nature makes enforcement difficult. The ban would be more effective for the activities of centralized intermediaries, but the activity would move to jurisdictions that do not impose the ban, and investors may find ways to evade it. In addition, evasion may lead to waterbed effects, whereby investors seek out similar activities not explicitly covered by existing rules or subject to less oversight. Finally, many societies tend to protect the rights of individuals to choose as long as they do not harm others, or tend to use outright bans sparingly. So that last sentence gives me some small bit of hope for this cryptocurrency space. Now, next section, contain. The second option is to isolate and contain crypto so that it remains more of a niche activity. This could be done first and foremost by limiting the flow of funds into and out of, and by limiting other connections with TradeFi. I guess limits on, which is kind of what you have at the moment, to a degree. Except there is over-the-counter services, but anyway. At the same time, containment would seek to curb any linkage to the real economy. Example, as means of payments for goods and services, or in response to the tokenization of real-world assets. These are several possible jurisdictions for this approach. As with bans, it is reasonable response if crypto is seen as not solving any practical real-world problems. Again, they have a lot of reference, a lot of data in this. What's happening, Tin Top? Just covering the token mapping exercise from Australia. I found the actual paper here. It is quite large, it is quite in-depth, it's quite impressive, hate to say it, but we as individuals have 1 month to reply and to provide some ideas, and to what looks like a lot of work, and as I said, there's a lot of references in here. I'm probably just going to get to the Bank of International Settlements, which appears to be where this token mapping sort of stemmed from. We see here, where is it? Has different sections. I'll put links in below. Purpose of token mapping. And then that basically links through to this article here. And I'm just going over how they're talking about in this particular article, which appears to be some sort of playbook for, what's coming. Ban, contain, or regulate. Or develop an alternative, which includes central bank digital currencies. So I'll continue. It would also make sense if it is believed that crypto would fade away with containment. If this option is successfully pursued, problems stemming from and propagating with the crypto markets would not damage TradeFi. Importantly, this option would avoid giving crypto a seal of approval, which might encourage its growth. That said, the containment approach has also had two main drawbacks. First, a firewall may not be fully effective in practice. For example, containment may introduce complexity. It may be feasible to prevent banks becoming a conduit for crypto activity in line with the approach pursued by the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, BCBS 2022, as well as some asset managers in line with the decision of the US SEC not to approve any exchange-traded funds based on spot Bitcoin markets. However, entities with less constrained investment mandates could still be lured with high promised returns, take outsized bets, and indirectly threaten their prime broker financiers. Maybe they're talking about hedges there. Second, if flow of new investor money were to be, maybe not hedges, maybe more people with lots of money. Second, if flows of new investor money were to be channeled into the system, such that crypto growth resumes, then even if financial stability risks for the TradeFi remain contained, concerns with investor protection and market integrity still would need to be addressed. Without doing so, the reputation of supervisory agencies could be tarnished by shocks. Moreover, as history suggests, investors may still demand compensation ex post. Tricky political economy issues would then come to the fore. Possibly they're talking about FTX there, things like that. Now, regulate, which is funny because, regulate, I'm pretty sure FTX was supposed to regulate it, but here we go. Regulate. This approach would treat crypto similar to the way TradeFi this approach would treat crypto in a similar way to TradeFi, applying the same principles and tools. To pursue this approach, authorities could start from a functional approach, identify key economic functions. So this is the token mapping that we're going through now here in Australia. Okay, where was I? To pursue this approach, entities could start from a functional approach and identify the key economic functions performed by crypto activities, and then assess how regulation could impact these. In practice, this would require mapping activities performed in crypto markets to TradeFi and then using similar guiding principles to regulate crypto, combining activity and entity-based approaches. This approach would ensure consistency in regulating financial activities, whether performed by crypto players or TradeFi, and help to promote the policy goals at the core of existing regulatory frameworks. Moreover, it would allow responsible actors to innovate with regulatory compliance and oversight. One familiar challenge of this approach is to establish an appropriate mapping between activities and entities in crypto and their TradeFi counterparts, together with the corresponding legal underpinnings. Various regulators are considering, for example, whether stablecoins could be licensed and regulated as banks, payment systems, or non-banks, e.g. non-bank payment service providers. Another challenge is enforcement. For the approach to work, it is necessary to identify the entities suited as entry points for regulation. This is more difficult in crypto, as some cases they lack clear reference points. Whether these be firms or individuals, indeed, some crypto proponents argue that this task is impossible. I tend to agree. Who's Satoshi? As an example, not related to stablecoins. That said, a useful starting point could be the entities and persons exerting a de facto control of a DeFi protocol. Again, talking about DeFi here, to try and regulate DeFi. In CeFi, of course, the problem is easier, given the more traditional nature of entities such as stablecoins and platforms. Yet even when entities can be identified, they may be less amenable to standard regulatory and supervisory tools, at least initially. As recent events have shown, some entities lack the basic accounting, corporate governance, compliance, and control functions that are prerequisite to participating in TradeFi, FTX. Depending on the targeted feature of the crypto world and the relative efficacy of each measure, either as standalone measures or in combination, authorities would combine specific bans, containment, and regulation by way of By way of illustration, individual jurisdictions could ban energy-intensive proof of work or the distribution of algorithmic stablecoins. Some intermediaries that bridge TradeFi and crypto could be brought under regulation. Other parts of crypto could be isolated as part of a containment strategy. So this is the part that they're going through, I think, and I'm not sure their end goal here. I can't help but feel some form of regulation is coming, but I'm not sure if it's going to be targeted at, say, as the where is it? Token mapping questions relate to. The last question is, and I consider it, I guess, harder of all of them. They seem to progress in complexity. AMM, it mentions AMM. Google AMM or ask chatbot AMM. Example that spat out was Uniswap. So I'll finish off this article and I'll wrap this one up. Develop an alternative. So this is also concerning, I think, but it could be all of this could be viewed as a positive, because if a regulation that comes out in a country like Australia that's not too authoritarian and allows for, you know, innovation and for it to exist and not to kill crypto off, then maybe, just maybe, you know, large players will engage. Whether or not the, I guess, system in control would allow this is, I guess, a conspiracy of mine, because more often than not, there's larger players pulling the strings here that we're not aware of. As I said before, many people in these organizations, like hedge funds and the like, at the very top, maybe they get a nice, concise newsletter with key points, you know, on the desk every day, put together by large teams, whereas we here in the crypto space may not be lucky enough to receive these. Anyway, moving on. Develop an alternative. Given their public policy mandate, central banks may want to do more by encouraging sound innovation in TradeFi. They could contribute to a more efficient monetary system. Central banks are uniquely placed to do this, as they sit at the core of the monetary and financial system. Their task is to provide the trust that underpins it. One important component of such strategy could be improving the quality of reducing the cost of payments. One option is to introduce retail fast payment systems such as the Unified Payment Interface, UPI in India, PIX in Brazil, the upcoming FedNow system in the United States. Or I laugh because, you know, central bank digital currencies, Biden bucks, coming soon. Or initiatives such as the Single Euro Payment Area, SEPA. Another option is to issue a central bank digital currency, CBDCs, we keep hearing about, that meet real needs. If properly designed and implemented, such initiatives could support private sector innovation. They could help reduce costs of payments, enhance financial inclusion, bolster the integrity of the system, and promote user control over data and privacy. The innovation that is present in certain areas of crypto could be harnessed to improve the way in which services are provided in TradeFi. TradeFi being legacy, I call it. In the process, these initiatives could support and leverage new technical capabilities, notably programming, programmability, composability, and tokenization, thereby increasing the efficiency of TradeFi. Referencing themselves there, I note. So no doubt they, you know, like to talk about themselves. The Bank of International Settlements, talking about central bank digital currencies, coming soon. Conclusion. Crypto assets markets have experienced a remarkable series of booms and busts, often resulting in large losses for investors. While these failures have so far not spilled over to the traditional finance system or the real economy, there is no assurance that they will not do so in the future. Scary crypto, you know. Demonized crypto. As DeFi and TradeFi become more intertwined, authorities now consider a variety of policy approaches and at the same time work to improve existing monetary system in the public interest. Again, this article itself would have taken a fair bit of work. It's been put together in a concise manner. It's even been broken down in an even more concise manner. Key takeaways, you know, it would be nice to get something like this every day, but I don't think you or I are going to be getting that, unfortunately, because you should see the stuff that they have been, what's happening to Finbear, you should see the stuff that they are referencing in this token mapping. It is quite impressive. Now, Let's have a look. For example, see I had no idea these other websites existed, right? So they're referencing here 166. Where is it? Revenue generating protocols, smart contracts that collect fees from users can generate. So this is back on the information presented from the Australian government, from Treasury, looking to begin a token mapping exercise, which was advised by the International Bank of International Settlements Bulletin back in a couple of weeks ago. I'm losing track of days. About 3 weeks ago. And so, again, everything that is planned for everyone is generally, written in reports like these. We just have to find them. Now, where is it? So it goes on to here. Smart contracts that collect fees from users, generate cash flows. In some cases, these fees are necessary part of the incentive mechanism to make the protocol work, e.g. fees paid by the users of AMMs. I think of Uniswap, for example, that are directed to liquidity providers to incentivize liquidity. In other cases where the smart contract protocol is created by a traditional business, the revenue may be directed back to an address controlled by the business, e.g. OpenSea marketplace or NFTs. In a few cases, the protocol revenue is distributed directly to the protocol guardian governance token holders. Several aggregated websites exist that generate financial statements and activity reports for smart contract protocols can be based on public crypto network data. And I'm like, what do you mean? So they provided token terminal and whatever this one is. So token terminal, I was like, what is this? Let's have a look. So we've got people in the background doing a lot of research, on crypto. A lot. More than I've done. A lot more than I've done, I tell you. And it goes through and explains, interestingly enough, the fees, the revenue, token incentives, the earnings. And I'm not sure what they were mentioning before, but it sounds like maybe revenue was made to the people who created the AMM, by the sounds of it. Again, you have to research this because I'm actually not sure myself. That's why I'm kind of impressed with what I'm reading. At the same time, disturbed because I'm not sure what is coming. Where is it? 166. 166. 166. Revenue generating protocols. Smart contracts that collect fees can generate cash flows. So maybe some of these are actually generating cash flow. So maybe the creator of, say, Uniswap is generating some cash flow. Revenue from Uniswap, 0, lol. Bitcoin, 0, lol. Fees. Okay, so maybe that's fees paid to the miners, not sure. Or participants of that system. Ethereum fees, okay. Yeah, again, correct me in the comments. Yeah, there's just a lot, man. There's a lot. It's just fascinating again. Fascinating to see the Australian government basically being guided by the Bank of International Settlements by this particular bulletin. And I'll be trying to go over all this to answer these questions in a way that can be factual and hopefully put forward my argument where basically, which is, at this point in time, that the crypto system is straightforward if you can read the on-chain data. Understand the difference between a centralized exchange and a decentralized exchange. One, you can read the data on-chain, the other you can't. Important is also to define, is it a scam? Pretty sure laws already cover this. If it's a scam, it's proven to be a scam. It's also important to identify if it's a layer 1, can it be built on? It's important to understand a smart contract, to be able to read the data, on-chain data. I don't think this tax reform needs to be rushed. I think another important factor is to be able to identify cost base from the on-chain data, I guess for tax purposes, tax law purposes technically, but again, not legal or tax advice, any advice of any sort. Everything's unofficial manner. And the rapidly evolving ecosystem, it's going to be hard to sort of create this regulation that they speak of under here. It's going to be very hard to create regulation when things keep changing so rapidly. So what I think we need to do here in Australia: stop scams, stop exchanges from scamming, teach operational security, and understand what is actually going on when you engage with cryptocurrencies. For example, a smart contract on a layer 1. Now, without any knowledge, if I say that to you and you're completely, like, not you guys in the chat, but like, if I say that to you and you have no idea what cryptocurrency is, it's going to be like another language. So again, I think that teaching operational security, teaching the lingo about cryptocurrency is very important before they start to say, let's ban it, let's contain it, let's regulate it. How about we teach it first? Teach everyone what it is. Because, yeah, I just worry that this regulation, they might regulate it into a contained model, which it doesn't work, fails, and then they go, oh, let's just ban it. I hope not, but that is one possibility. The other possibility is they regulate in a sensible manner. I'm not sure how they're going to do it though. I think this is what they're trying to figure out. And if that regulation, like, it's interesting when that, like, as I said before, they're saying, some people are basically saying the bespoke paper sets out some reasons why the bespoke crypto asset taxonomy may have been a regulatory value. So they word it in a legalese way, whereby I use ChatGPT for this. Basically summarizes that the crypto, in simple terms, repeating it before, the question is asking for reasons or viewpoints that support or challenge the idea that a specific taxonomy classification system for crypto assets would have limited value for regulation. It's asking for alternative perspective on this matter. But that other question was actually saying the paper argues that creating a special category or classification of crypto assets in the tax system may not be very helpful in terms of regulation. So they're going to are they going to create, this insane token mapping exercise and then try and tax every single coin known to man, and however many are being created every day, which would mean what? They'd have to read every single contract, every single code, every single oddball chain that's appearing, every scam token, and try and apply a tax to every single one, which may have legal value to regulation. Or are they going to, what is the alternative? I'm trying to think of the alternatives, what it could be. I can understand centralized exchanges. Maybe they're going to try and crack down on, not crack down, maybe they put some, similar to Coinbase, I guess, where they try and train people, explain to people, this is what this is what this is. This paper actually does that a little bit. Before they can, I don't know, buy or sell cryptocurrency of their choice. Then with the investor having that understanding, they're then able to, sail around the ocean of the cryptocurrency world, hoping they don't encounter, some bad actors, bad code, bad contracts, etc. So it's going to be very hard to roll out any form of regulation when there is so many pitfalls within the cryptocurrency space, if those pitfalls still exist, because a lot of things, maybe they're falling off. We're seeing a lot of exchanges fail. We're seeing a lot of bad algorithms not work out. I think Luna is a good example there of how it can be exploited, or how it was exploited. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge to reply to this one. But basically, regardless, they're going to be moving forward with this. So I'm not sure whether to interpret that as token mapping is basically the first step towards regulation, because that's what it is according to this paper. Basically saying you need to do the token mapping first to define how you're going to regulate. And so they seem to be asking in the paper questions to do with decentralized sort of applications, NFTs, various NFTs, and what else was there? Interchangeable property, so maybe you're buying tickets with something. See, this one's interesting. Smart contracts are commonly developed as free and open source software. They are often published and republished by entities other than their original authors. What are the regulatory and policy levers available to encourage the development of smart contracts that comply with the existing regulatory frameworks? What are the regulatory and policy levers available to ensure smart contract applications comply with existing regulatory frameworks? So which regulatory frameworks are they referring to? Other people from those regulatory agencies are probably going to be putting forward requests to this process, I would imagine, because that's what I'd be doing if I wanted something done, and you're going to do it through a process. What else? That is about it. So I'm going to keep plodding away at this, and a few more viewers. What's happening in the chat? If you're looking at this now, you might have to go back and catch the replay. I think some form of regulation is coming now. I'm not sure when, but it does appear that the beginning is coming to Australia by this token mapping exercise. And whether it means, I guess, best possible scenario is they go tax laws are up to date. You just need to figure out tax bases. You need to learn how to read on-chain data. I think this was interesting here. Before I close that, so it's got, you know, an annex glossary basically explaining what things are. You know, maybe it's like, you should understand all these things before you invest in cryptocurrency, and then once you do, go for it. Could be the dream. Obviously, you know, pay your taxes, everything. Don't do scammy shit. Don't fall for scams, etc., etc. Now, here is probably worth a view. Yeah, you see, they've done a lot of work, a lot of researching. One of the things they referenced was MakerDAO, how it all works. Now, where is it? Here. This is probably worth noting for Hexskins, more probably for the Australian Hexskins. It says Australian crypto asset regulation. You should be able to read that. While this primarily focuses on the financial services framework, there are several frameworks with different regulatory objectives that apply to crypto assets in Australia. The following table provides a non-exhaustive overview of the key frameworks. Here we go. We've got different regulators here in Australia, like regulator ASIC, relevant legislation, Corporations Act, ASIC Act. If the crypto asset is a financial product, it will be subject to certain obligations and requirements under the Corporations Act and ASIC Act. This includes prohibitions on misleading and deceptive conduct or unconscionable conduct, hawking or selling pressure, requirements to disclosure about the features and characteristics of the financial products before sale, design and distribution obligations, and requirements for those financial products traded on the financial markets. Again, I pulled up on ChatGPT the lazy way to cover some legal stuff. Well, not legal stuff, but you know, you can pull up, say, what is the Corporations Act? Corporation Acts lists specific products that are financial products. What is the list in simple terms? According to ChatGPT, you'd have to like double check this. The Corporation Acts lists specific financial products that companies can offer and trade in Australia. These financial products include securities, derivatives, and managed investment schemes. These lists outline what is considered a financial product and provides guidelines for companies dealing with these products to ensure that they are conducting business legally and transparently. Simply put, the list defines the types of financial products that companies can offer to the public. So that's probably a good background to the ASIC. I didn't look up the ASIC Act. You can do that in your own time if you want. If I do it later on another stream, catch on the replay. Now, regulator ACCC, Australian Consumer Law. Trying to think what the ACCC stands for now. Anyway, for crypto tokens that are not financial products, the provisions of the Australian Consumer Law could potentially apply, including prohibitions against misleading or deceptive conduct. Businesses may engage in conduct that involves a combination of financial and non-financial products or services. To address this potential overlap, in 2018, the ACCC delegated powers to the ASIC to action under the Australian Consumer Law relating to crypto tokens. not too sure what they're getting at there. Basically, I'm thinking if you're a scammy piece of shit, then you're probably going to get, done for breaking the consumer law. Because if you're scamming arsehole, you're being an arsehole that scams people, then that's not good. Now, let's have a look. So we'll look at Australian consumer law under ACC. ACCC, sorry. What is it in simple terms in relation to crypto? God, I can't type. Now, the next. The Australian Consumer Law, ACL, is a national law that protects consumers and ensures fair competition in the marketplace in relation to cryptocurrency. The ACL provides consumers with certain rights and protections, such as the right to a fair and transparent market, the right to receive accurate information about products, and the right to be protected from deceptive or misleading conduct. The ACL applies to all goods and services, including cryptocurrencies, and helps to ensure that consumers are able to make informed decisions about their purchases and investments. In simple terms, the ACL helps protect consumers in the cryptocurrency market, which I think overall is a good thing. But the consumers probably should understand what it is that they are engaging with. In terms of, like I said before, L1, what is the code doing? What is it doing on chain? Is it a scam or not? Simple things like that. Next one, AUSTRAC, relevant legislation, AML, CTF Act. Digital currency exchanges are regulated by AUSTRAC under Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorism Financing, AML, CTF Act, for the purposes of preventing and detecting money laundering and terrorism financing. Digital currency exchanges must register with AUSTRAC and meet AML and CTF compliance and reporting obligations, including all your customer requirements. That's pretty straightforward. Like when you do your AML KYC stuff anywhere in the world, I'm pretty sure it's all hooked up on the one network, and I'm assuming most centralized exchanges do have that. Now, regulator ATO, relevant legislation, income tax, goods and services tax act. Now, this I found was an interesting one. It says investors in crypto tokens and other market participants are subject to tax laws if an entity is carrying on a business in relation to digital currency or as part of their existing business, or if they are accepting digital currency as a payment in a business. The entity needs to consider, any GST consequences that may arise. Tax implications for investors flow from the underlying nature of the rights and obligations attached to the asset and the personal circumstances of the investor. Crypto tokens will generally be. This is interesting. Crypto tokens will generally be capital assets, meaning there could be capital gains, tax consequences, or capital losses. Again, this cites that. I think they're learning, that the difference between, say, Celsius and developing income from that. Use income loosely, because what were they actually doing? Maybe they were committing fraud or something, instead, which is what you want to crack down on, which is what I'm hoping this is all about, as opposed to regulating, I'm not sure what, into non-existence or something to move it to a containment. But yeah, that's about it. That was probably a lot of nonsense to some. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. But they do have a decent research database from what I'm seeing here in relation to cryptocurrency. How I'm going to answer this, I'm not sure just yet. I'll be doing the best I can to try and answer every single question. But this first one is like, what do you think the role of government should be in regulation of the crypto ecosystem? I think that there's enough regulation in place now. There's a lot of regulation in place now for centralized exchanges, for holding a bank account, and then cryptocurrency. You got to understand at L1, you got to understand, how to store it safely. You got to understand basically what is going on. If you're engaging with any smart contracts, are they scams? And the question is, how are you going to regulate that? Well, how do you know something's a scam until it's not a scam? You don't. It's simply, bluntly put. I mean, how else can you say that? Like, how do you know if someone's going to be a good partner? You're going to regulate and then, try and filter out some people to try and get the best partner, or how exactly does that work? Or how are you going to meet someone? How do you know someone's going to be entertaining? Now, as I say that, it's like, well, okay, regulation, you're going to try and sort of pick out the winners, the best possible options. But by doing so, you still don't know until you actually pick. And then at that point, are you saying to stifle the innovation, stifle the picking, because it could turn out to be a scam? It's very, very, it's a hard question. How do you answer this? A simple way that government will listen. I'm not sure. But hopefully I can put forward a decent argument. Hopefully, like this one. This one's okay in terms of what are your views on potential safeguards for consumers and investors? Teach them. Just keep teaching them. Simply put, scams can be difficult for some consumers to identify, as saying, leading on from the first question. The second question: are there solutions, disclosure, code auditing, other requirements that could be applied to safeguard consumers that choose to use crypto assets? Again, how do you know until you use the crypto asset? People need to maybe experience some things. Maybe they need to understand what the code's roughly doing. Maybe there needs to be somewhere that can look at the code and say, yeah, this looks okay, But then, should it be the exchanges that it's their responsibility to do that? Should it be government's responsibility to do that? I don't know, man. Like, people need to take responsibility for their own actions, I think. I mean, it's good that government thinks they can do this, but they're spending a lot of money on this. I would imagine a lot. And I am, as a taxpayer, funding for all this, so that's kind of frustrating. But at the same time, if we don't try and respond, then no one's going to hear us, and no one's going to be able to, if we don't at least try, then we can't say. If we don't speak, no one's going to listen. At least if we try and speak to them, we can say that we tried. Because otherwise, they could just, if no one replies to this at all, and someone just says, "I think we need maximum," if we get Munger, imagine Munger gets one of his lawyers to write a report saying he thinks in Australia that cryptocurrency should be banned, and then he writes something like, "Oh, the reason I think it should be banned is because the role of government should be to ban cryptocurrency. And what are your views on safeguards for consumers and investors? I think it should be banned. Scams can be difficult for consumers to identify because it's not banned." Like, that's kind of what I'm saying. So I don't agree with that, and so I'm going to write what I think. So, that being said, I'll get back to it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know that this is going to be some boring set of stuff. On another note though, while I got you guys here, I actually was able to, I haven't even been to it yet, man. Where is it? I can't remember what I'm called now. What's my name? The Crypto-Politico Down Under. I was able to get the domain name for that. So eventually at some stage, there will be a website with videos and articles like this to do with cryptocurrency and information and reference points. Hopefully, I'm guessing it'll be Australian based as well, but maybe it'll be global based. Maybe it breaks down to different sections of the world. Maybe we sort of create a decentralized platform to go over articles like this. Cointelegraph and Coindesk, and this is all the stuff that led me to find this token mapping exercise, which I had no idea was in existence. And if I had no idea it was in existence, my voice would have been silenced and my free speech would have been silenced because my lack of knowledge to be able to find it. See, this is the bullshit that governments do, I think. Not bullshit, but if you don't know what's happening, how can you reply? Do you have free speech if you're not able to speak in the important key event areas where you need to be speaking? Well, I think we need to be speaking. It's good to be, what's the price of Hex doing right now? it's good to be watching prices, I guess, when they're going up. Do you really be staring at screens? If you're staked, what does it matter? Just curious. Curiosity killed the cat, it's the same, but god damn, that's some nice numbers. I sold my Hedron, man, my Cosa, man, my Hex, man. Imagine that. So here's, on a positive note, let's end this on a positive note. Imagine everything's dying around us. Imagine, not dying, but imagine, where's Nomics at? I still use Nomics. Imagine everything's dying around us. And trade fi, as I like to call it, is not performing so well because, you know, rates going to keep rising for a couple more times. And then by the time the Fed pivots and actually lowers the rates, because they're probably going to up, then pause, meaning 0.25, period of pause. When that pause ends, they're going to go, we're in a really bad state right now, and we need to pivot. We need to lower rates to try and stimulate the economy, not to create quantitative easing and create more money, but try and create it naturally. Release some pressure on this economy, you know, let people have some rate cuts on their mortgages, you know. And at that point, the economy is going to be probably down, I'd imagine. Just imagine if crypto itself starts to rise, you know. Imagine if something like Hex is mooning through the roof. I guess all this token mapping is not going to be able to hide the fact that some cryptocurrencies were designed, coded better than others. And yeah, I'm not sure how you're going to explain to how the government's going to tell you that cryptocurrency is bad when every single hexagon you know might be in a decent financial position. That's the hopium I'm going to leave this stream at. Alright, thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah. I've got a lot of reading to do. Alright, peace.